And now, live from Pod Cabin in Burbank, California, it's the Allison Rosen is Your Best Friend show. Tonight, Allison welcomes her guest. He's a comedian who would like to tell you about an incredible once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be your own boss, etc. And all you have to do is watch his new comedy special, Big Nothingness, and be willing to not earn any money. It's David Huntsberger. And she's a comedian, writer, and proprietor of the world's tiniest comedy club. It's Sara Schaefer. Chef Jeff is here to accept the Tony Award on Tony's behalf for Best Adopted Tony based on a previous Jeff. I'm her husband, Daniel, saying hop on board, love bus, and say hello to your new best friend, Allison Rosen.
Allison Rosen is your new best friend. Allison, we've had the good times never end. Allison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Allison's your new best friend.
Hello, my little spam musubis. Welcome to another exciting episode of Allison Rosen is Your New Best Friend. That particular carbohydrate was sent in on Patreon by Elizabeth Yandall. It is her child's 4th birthday coming up, and that is his favorite food. And I'm wondering where she lives that this is something that they're going to get frequently, or maybe it's everywhere. I don't know. I also don't know. Is it spam musubi or spam musubis? There's a lot I don't know, but last week I completely forgot to select a carbohydrate at all. So at least I chose one this week. Anyway, very excited to introduce my guest, to get down to brass tacks with this show. Let me just say real fast, I am on Patreon. Bonus episodes of The Friend Zone. Just had Jenna Kim Jones on. It was super fun. You can see the video of this as a patron. There's a level where you can text me and I'll text you back. I feel like I'm forgetting some stuff, but there's all sorts of fun stuff. Patreon.com/Allison Rosen. And if you sign up for a year, thank you. If you sign up for a year, you get 2 months free. So it's 12 months for the price of 10. And also you can submit carbohydrates. Okay, let's get to it. Dave Hunsberger, hello, welcome back.
Hello. And I'm excited that Jeff is back. Well,
I know.
Welcome back.
It's a lot of passion from our studio audience regarding Jeff's return.
Well, they're right.
I mean, he's a polarizing figure. I get it.
Oh, and they did a trick there at the end. What dazzled them? They said, wow.
I know.
A dance move I did.
Oh.
For anyone who doesn't know, and which would be all of you who don't know, the camera on Jeff's computer is not working right now. So we who are recording this, as we record this, we're just staring at a box that says Jeff Fox parentheses computer. You look like you've been chowing box, man.
That's why I had to shut the camera off.
Again, and I just like to remind everyone, when I watched the guy who I had just a humongous crush on in high school, when I watched him comment to another surfer friend, "You look like you've been chowing box, man," it was because the other friend had been eating watermelon. And then my crush, it persevered, but then I saw this guy who, by the way, now owns an energy drink company, which feels so perfect. I saw him hawk a loogie onto a plant, and then I watched it dangle, and that's when I could no longer have a crush on him. Mm-hmm. I am so excited to welcome back to the show. Yes, I said that correctly. Sara Schaefer, hello.
Hi.
Welcome back. Have you ever stopped having a crush on someone because you watched them hawk a loogie somewhere?
I can't remember a specific instance of that. I'm trying to remember sudden decrushing.
Disgust.
There are many. I mean, when I was in college, you just had to like me back, and then I wouldn't like you anymore.
Yes, it wasn't, for me, it wasn't necessarily even genuine liking. It was just like being kind and open to me. And then I'm like, uh-oh, this feels like too much commitment.
Yeah, I was just afraid of kissing and everything that came after that. And so as soon as a guy I liked would show interest, I called it the bad vibe. I would become repulsed.
When in your
Maybe
book,
I'm gay. No, just kidding. 20 years later, I figure out. No. 20 years later, 2 husbands.
I have so many questions. Well, no, I have 2 questions. I'm going to circle back to them after I introduce. No, but I got to say what they are because I'm afraid I'm going to forget.
Okay.
I'm, and then, remember them because then we're going to circle back.
I'll put them in the hopper.
Thank you. One question is if you were afraid of kissing and everything that came with it, at what age did you have your first kiss? And then my second question is, in your book, you had a slang term for like making out and sex stuff, and I'm forgetting what it is. So that's the second question.
Okay.
Right. Daniel Quantz, my husband, hello and welcome.
Hi. I can concur with what you said earlier. All I did was like one of your tweets, and you wanted to date me.
That's not true.
That's how little it took.
That's not true.
I have a spit anecdote.
Okay.
So I never spit. I'm just one of those guys. Just don't do it. But there was one night when I was out, we were having sushi, and I stepped out on the sidewalk, and there was like something in my throat, and there was nobody on the sidewalk that I could see, and I was just like, and I did one of those like, but little did I know there was another guy half a block down, maybe not quite half a block, coming my way, and when he got up to me, he spit right, like he thought I was spitting at him in his path, and so he had to spit in my path.
That's the weirdest.
Made me aware there's like a whole spitting like language that I don't speak.
God, we humans we're just monkeys with wallets. Like this is so primal. I spit at you, you're gonna spit at me.
Yeah.
But was he?
I'm just saying that as a cautionary tale. Just careful where you spit, or you might get jumped.
So, but did he did his loogie hit your loogie?
No, but it was really close. It was like in the same concrete square area.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Ugh.
And was he looking at you like you?
Oh, it was an aggressive spit. It was definitely not like a toss it to. It was like a to you.
And then what did you do?
I was mystified. I felt bad because I felt like I had offended the guy somehow.
But you didn't try to say anything about it?
No, we fought with knives and chains after that. Sure.
Okay.
Those guys do.
Glad to know. And Jeff Fox, hello.
Hi, Allison. It's good to be back.
More tricks.
Mixed crowd. They're gonna have to have a knife fight afterwards and decide whether I'm yay or boo.
Maybe they can just fight with let their mucus do the talking. But
Exactly.
this audience, I do love their passion, I must say.
Yes.
Okay.
I just love that it in the parentheses is not human but computer. And so I'm choosing to associate you as this computer that's kind of jazzy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's my computer voice.
You guys have, for years now, you've heard what I can do with a human producer. I've decided to try out a computer producer.
Yeah.
So far, I feel like it's going really well. Okay. Lots of stuff to get to.
Uh-oh.
Bye.
Lots of stuff to get to in this show. We're going to do our new breakout segment, Do You Remember This Dude, soon. Cannot wait for that. We're going to do some Just Me or Everyone. I've made a little list of things we need to get to, but first, let's circle back with Sara Schaefer. Okay, full disclosure, before the intro that the Patreon people get to see, but that no one else hears, Daniel accidentally said Sara Schaefer, and now my mouth wants to say.
It's a very common tongue. I've heard it so. You have a name that is like that when you've heard it so many times that now I don't even. I would have never even. I mean, I would have been like, they know who you're talking about. Just keep going. It's fine.
Well, especially because welcome to the show, Sara Schaefer. That's where it gets. Yeah. That's where things get real dicey.
Tongue twister.
Yeah. All right.
She
Sarah.
sells seashells.
What's the one where you end up saying? There's one where you end up saying farts. So naturally, I enjoy it.
You're real smart feller.
Yes. 4 smart fellows. They felt smart. Ooh, what a fun one. Okay, Sarah, when did you first kiss someone, and what do you call sex stuff in your book?
Okay, so first kissed someone when I was 16, but I hated it. I really despised the experience. Kissed another guy maybe a year later, didn't like that either. I don't remember enjoying kissing a person until I was probably 19.
Okay.
And then every step past that was equally terrifying and repulsive to me until finally the body took over, the hormones got in line with the psychological I don't know. It all worked out in the end. I have had sex. Yeah.
I also had my first kiss at 16 and I felt crazy old.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I felt very behind every step of the way, and I was compared to a lot of my peers. But now that I'm older and there's been a more general sense of like the pool of people out there, it wasn't as abnormal as I thought it was.
Yes. I think the people who were sexually active young were loud about it, and the rest of us were quieter about it. We late bloomers.
Yeah.
Tell me if you've had this. I've had several friends with daughters, especially. I think it's maybe more expected in little boys, but that are like experiencing or curious about sex or even like masturbation at a very young age, where they're like, yeah, we had to go talk to someone about it. I wasn't ready for that talk yet. And so it's so weird to think like the hormones would be coming in on the way early end, and then to be like 19 and like, oh, I'm getting something. This is that sounds nice.
I had little tingles, from a very young age, but just wasn't aware of what they were. And the connection between someone else being involved in that, that was
what
terrifying.
Was it that like pushed it over the edge? Was there like an image you saw or a movie where you're like, oh, if that body kissed me, I think I'd be okay with that.
For me personally, it was A Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon. But Sarah, the question was posed to you.
Well, no, I mean, there were lots of movie moments. I think there was a moment in 16 Candles, maybe. I mean, it was early on, like, I don't know. There was a lot of, like, all it took was for a dude to lean on something and then look at the girl with the right song playing. A lot of Jordan Catalano.
Oh, yeah.
Psychedelic furs.
There was a lot of desire. All I wanted was a boyfriend and all of it. But the physical execution of it was very terrifying for me.
Yeah, I think it was kind of the same for me. Like, I wanted to be able to say I have a boyfriend. I wanted to be the age where people have boyfriends and go on dates. And like, to me, it was like, that's when you're like really living your life and you have a life that exists outside of your nuclear family, which I desperately wanted all of that. I wanted to be like on my way to independence. But I didn't think about the actual, like what it meant to have a boyfriend. And it wasn't about connecting with another person at all. It was about, I just wanted to be older.
Yeah, and I also wanted to be loved, like, and to be worshipped, but I didn't want to have to give anything of my body for that.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very feminist stance.
It took a long time to get there, and then when I was ready, I was off and running, and the guy that I lost my virginity to, I ended up marrying.
That's right.
And it didn't work out. But a little bit of a turn there.
Would you?
Everyone kept clapping. That should have been yeah. Come on, Jeff.
Yeah,
pick up the pace.
Computer producer. Let's take that. Let's take that one again. Sarah, tell us again how it didn't work out. You married.
I lost my virginity to a guy, and I ended up marrying him. It didn't work out. We got divorced, but
Damn it, Jeff.
Okay.
What's happening? This audience is very callous.
I don't think the Jeff bot was programmed for this.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Got to restart him.
It's okay.
Sarah.
Oh,
would
well,
you?
speaking of the second question, I should have brought it up earlier, given what we talked about in freshman year in college. One of my friends came up with a term that was for sex, or basically sex, but anything advanced, was called touching junks. Junx. I want to touch junks. Did you touch junks?
It's so elegant.
Yeah.
I like that.
Sarah, would you, if someone were planning on marrying someone that they had lost their virginity to and they hadn't been with anyone else, would you recommend against that?
Oh, I don't know. That seems like it seems like a really heavy piece of advice, but I mean, I do recommend exploring before you marry, because I mean, that wasn't the only reason my marriage didn't work out. That was not even close to being the reason, you know. But
you're the only junks I've touched. There simply must be more.
Exactly. Yeah.
Touched one junks.
Yeah.
Are there
more.
other junkses?
Yeah.
So many junks, so little times is.
I know. I mean, I recommend it just because, you know, make sure because I don't even like it because it's implying that the reason I broke up with my ex is because it was dissatisfactory.
Oh yeah, that's not what I meant.
Like, and then I found out there was like a bigger dick possible or something. Like, it wasn't like that.
Oh, yes. I see how that could seem like part of the question. That wasn't
I think it's
what
a
I meant.
youth thing. If you end up marrying and never have other experiences, and maybe even, I mean, I got married at age 27. Yeah. And that at the time didn't feel young to me, but looking back, it was very young for me.
Yeah.
Traditionally, that's not very young.
No, but I felt I had only had one boyfriend, and so I hadn't been through life experiences such as breaking up with someone. So that made my divorce very difficult. I didn't know how to break up with someone or what it was all supposed to mean, and then for it to be divorce on top of it was very dramatic.
You just hawk a loogie at them as they're walking down the street. I believe it's the traditional.
Yeah, I
way.
spit on him and I said, "No more."
And then
I found out that's not how you're supposed to do it.
Well, then if he had covered your spit with his spit, then, oh my God, then it would
means
have
it's
been
over. We didn't have to go to the courthouse.
That's right. That's a classic annulment. Okay, my 2-year-old seems to have joined this show. Hi, Owen.
Look at that little angel.
Say hi.
He's not the most dynamic of guests. Oh, now, hi, Owen. Can you say hi? What are you doing, Owen?
He's so cute.
You gotta go.
He's cute,
Look
but
at him.
he's cute, but he's a disruptive little guy. Okay. All right. Let's see. I think it's time for our brand new breakout segment. Do you remember this dude?
Do you remember this dude? Do you remember this dude? Do you remember this dude? Do you remember this dude?
Do ya?
Sarah, apparently you have actually met Dave Hunsberger before. Do you remember this dude?
I remember the face and the name, but I don't know where we met, and I couldn't place you when we first got on here. And that is becoming a more common occurrence in my life. I've met
And
too
also
many
for
people.
Dave.
Yeah, I have. I feel like I sometimes I attribute it to just being in Los Angeles, and I don't know if you're.
Yeah.
I assume you're in a big city, also.
Yeah.
And at some point, and maybe the pandemic had a. But I think pre-pandemic, I was already starting to do that, where like I had always kind of prided myself on. I remember people generally, and sometimes just fully blank. So, and I feel like last time we did this is the second time we've done this segment now, and we didn't really give like.
Is it always about you?
It came about because of me, because like Allison was asking me, like she was
just
saying,
you with random people.
"Yeah,
You
it's
remember
me
this
thus far."
It's making you feel really forgettable.
He recommended it as a segment.
I said it like I was kind of jokingly saying, "Yeah." I was
Okay.
like,
I
because
think
it was
it's
two
hilarious.
people in a row where I said. Like, she asked me about the first person, and I said, "Oh, yeah," and oddly, we kind of know each other. I would be shocked if she remembered me. Then she said, "Oh, and then Sarah's going to be a guest," and I was like, oddly enough, we've also interacted once.
So how do you remember me?
Okay, so here, and this is why it's so funny to me, because it adds this really great little third tier to it, which is we were at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and I believe we had just maybe watched Sam Simmons, and I think I was with Drennan Davis.
Okay.
And you came over with Carmen Lynch. And Carmen and I had met a few years prior at Montreal, and there was like a huge loud party happening. We'd seen each other at a few things here and there and like been on some shows together. But it was like the first time we chatted for like an hour outside this big party. And then I saw her at the Fringe, so I was like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And she just openly was like, "I don't know who you are." And I was like, "Oh, that's funny." And she goes, "No, I'm being serious. I have no idea who you are." I was like, "Oh, well, we were chatting at Montreal for quite," and I was like, maybe she was on drugs then or something, or I don't remember what the case, why she was. I felt like after that, like that was a fun
If
conversation.
I've talked to somebody for an hour, I didn't talk for an hour, did we?
No, and then so Carmen was basically like, "Oh, yeah, well,
I
anyway,
remember
sorry
your
about that.
face
Do
and
you
your
know?"
name.
Yeah, I remember you because that moment stood out to me so much of her just being like, "I don't know who
Because
you
I was
are."
just so gorgeous. Oh.
And that, yeah, you're radiant. There's that beautiful Scottish like fog in the distance, illuminate moonlight in the background. But she was like, "This is Sarah," and I said hello, and that was about it. We just said hello, but you were witness to that insanely awkward moment between me and Carmen. So that's me. That's what I like emanate is who are you?
Oh.
And so that's where that's segment I jokingly threw it out.
Okay, one, as comedians, and two, then on top of it, if you are, like, I also write for TV, and I recently talked to someone who had looked me up on, I guess, IMDb or something, which I don't even look at. I don't know what. The last time I looked at it, I got so angry. It made my career seem really weird. And he's like, "You have done so many things." And I'm like, that the IMDb doesn't even have half of it on there. So the amount of jobs we have working in this business, the amount of shows that we go to, and the sheer number of people that we meet along the way, audience members, bookers, club people. When you go on the road, then you meet the guy that picks you up from the airport. You meet all the other comics. It's more than the average person meets.
Yeah.
We meet way too many people to be able to keep up with it. And it's like horrifying because like I think we're kept to the same standards that everyone else are kept to of like remembering people.
Oh, I get so envious. Do you run into people that maybe like never left where you went to high school and they're like, "Do you remember this time in," and they'll have like a whole day memorized and you're like, "Oh man, not even close." And
an old college classmate just emailed me, which was kind of weird. She listens to my podcast and did not realize until the last episode where I talked about college that we were classmates. And then it all came rushing back and she remembered me. And when she writes me the email, she's like remembering shit that I said in the class. And I'm like, I have no idea who you are. She has like really clear memories of like conversations we had, and I mean, that's some people just have better memories, but yeah, I think it's not fair, the amount of people that we have to meet and keep up with. And sometimes I will remember someone and they're so impressed. I'll be like, "Hey, Carmen," whatever. And then other times it's like, one time a guy in a green room was like, I was like, have we met before? You seem familiar. And he was like, "Yeah, we like spent a whole weekend together in Boston. Remember that?" And I was like, no memory. Like he's telling me all this stuff. I have no memory of the entire weekend. Like it was a comedy thing. He's like, you
Did
were
it
there
for
with
sure
Scott.
happen?
Well, that's what I was like. I feel like I'm being lied to. He's like, and then you and I and Scott went to this restaurant. I'm like, what? I don't remember it at all.
What's weird is
don't feel bad.
I feel like my average for have we met before or like we've met before, right, is pretty high. But I feel like when other people are sure they've met me, they're usually wrong. And in the telling of that, I feel like the unreliable narrator is me in that scenario. Because I'm like, when I do it, I'm right. But when other people do it, they're wrong. Unless I actually am right and they're wrong.
Oh, I think I'm always wrong.
Okay. Well, then that means I am right, because here's an example of someone who usually thinks they're wrong. I don't understand the logic of that either.
I can always tell when people are faking it when they'll say like, good to see you or good to see you again.
Yeah.
And I really like to call people. I feel like that's just the smarmiest. So if someone says to me, good to see you again, I'll go, we've never met. And I really get a nice satisfaction out of the, don't try that shit with me. It's such a Hollywood weird thing to do. And they feel like I've figured out a loophole. I've written a whole book about this. I hate it.
There's somebody, there's people who do the opposite of that, which is we've met 7 times. And I'm like, why are you counting?
Yeah, that is bizarre.
I understand, like, earlier on in my career, there would be people that sometimes it's egregious, where it feels like they're doing it on purpose. It's like a power move. Like
Dave and I were
the 48 Laws of Power.
We're just like a week ago talking about this. The thing where it's like, but you have met a lot, and the person seems not to remember you.
Right. Like we've worked together, like, and you're not even acknowledging that maybe you're wrong and forgetting. They're like, no, we've never met. And you're like, what? So I understand there's both sides to it, but yeah, the people not remembering you when you really think that they should, that's really annoying. But also with social media, it's even harder, because there'll be people that I'm like, oh, we know each other. And it's like, you know what? And then we'll talk and we're like, you know what? I think we've actually never met, but we follow each other online. And so we think we've met.
Yes.
There's a whole other layer to it now.
Dave.
Yeah.
Were you just out of town?
I was, yeah.
Where'd you go? How was it?
It was great. I had this, I was working on Big Nothingness, which is out now on YouTube and the audio streaming a bunch of places forever. And then I was like coasting into the finish line because it had been done for what I felt was like months. And one of the things I had been telling people whenever they brought, like, when they would bring up the song in the credits, like, that's a cool song. And I go, it's great. Like I checked in with them real early and got the rights to it. And they're like, oh, it's awesome. I was like, yeah, like I like that band. And so I realized I hadn't sent them the final product. And so I was like, oh, what am I doing? And so I sent them a link, and the people I'm referencing are someone in the band and a person who had been connected to the chat that was with the record label. And it was like stumbling in and realizing you hadn't like done your taxes or something to the effect of like, oh shit, I was certain I sent that bill in or whatever. And the email, I had just changed it in my mind that they're like, yep, you're all good. And it was, check in with us. It should be no big deal. I mean, it was still like so close to being
it was
no
still
big deal.
pending.
It's still like pending. As long as this person likes it, you're good. So then I sent it over, and I got this reply that was like, that person doesn't work at this record label anymore. So and so and so and so are on it. And I was like, oh, this isn't so great.
Oh no.
I had to the people that were putting it online, I had to message them like, there's a chance this could be an issue. I think it's going to be fine. And it was not fine. It was going to be outrageous to license the song. And I was like, no one even watches the credits anymore. And I didn't, the whole spirit of the project was people doing something artsy for like just to be a part of it and be creative. There wasn't a lot of like, I'll do it, but for this amount of money. So I just moved on, but I was like in the mountains with no Wi-Fi. I had to drive down this road, pay for some Wi-Fi, but then my computer battery would go down. So I'd be like struggling with this slow ass Wi-Fi to try to figure out if I could connect with another musician to see if like they had a song I could use. Then I'd go back up the hill and plug in a generator and start a generator and plug my computer into it to get the battery back. It was such a calamity of like I don't know. I feel like in a lot of ways that's just, again, that's me. Like for whatever reason, just missing, like not crossing this one T, and then I'm scrambling up and down this mountain at the last second right before it's released. It was so dumb. But my friend Andy Kress, who goes by the name Christofsky, is a musician. So great, makes stuff all the time, puts it up online for free. It was like, yeah, use my song. So got a new song in, and hopefully that problem is solved, but it was just so dumb. But it was great being in the mountains.
That sounds so stressful. I don't think that's just you. I think I've talked before about how I have this problem with closing the loop with emails. Like I'll say to someone, hey, are you available on this date? And they say yes. And then I never respond. And then I get into trouble because I forget. Like the most dramatic example of this being when we were sitting there recording our show, and then Jensen Karp walked in and he's like, sorry, I'm late. I'm like, oh, we don't need you this week. Like we hadn't. He was so nice about it. But I think I had said, would you happen to be available on this date? And he had said yes. And then I never. Anyway, so I always try to do like one more email round than I think I need.
Yeah.
So it's not just you. Maybe it's just you and me. But anyway, yeah, that sounds super stressful. But you were in the mountains.
Yeah, and that was only a small percentage of the time. So the rest of it was really relaxing and great. I saw some mountain lion poop. It was pretty wild. Have you ever seen it?
Tell me everything. No,
yeah,
what
we
is
were
it
walking
like?
over, and it's like gigantic cat poop. It's like 10 times the size, but with like tons of deer fur in it. So it's pretty wild.
Like a human finger.
Oh, way bigger than a human finger.
An AirPod.
No, I think he's suggesting there is a human finger in it.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
A wedding ring.
Yeah. All kinds of paraphernalia.
That's how I got my Apple Watch.
That's how you got your Apple Watch. You picked it. Wait, you picked it out of mountain lion?
Because they just pass right through.
Yeah, it had broken loose. I didn't have to really dig it out.
Nice. Yeah, there's still mystery scat in my yard.
Ooh.
I don't know where it's coming from. It's bigger than like rat poop, but it's shaped sort of like a poop pellet. Maybe
Right
squirrels. Yeah, there's a ton of it.
Yeah, maybe
Could
squirrel.
be possum too.
Yeah, possum. If it looks like rat poo, but it's bigger, it might be possum.
Do you guys feel confident that you know what possum poop looks like? Or you're just thinking it sounds like it could be possum
possums
poop?
are rodents.
Right.
Yeah.
I know
don't
what
want to
rat poo
go
looks
right
like.
to. Yeah, I don't want to immediately jump to like chupacabra or something mystical. But I think we're all thinking that you have a visitor.
I'm looking it up.
Okay, good. Tell us.
I've seen some possum poo.
And what? How was it?
It looks like big rat poo or big mouse poo.
It does. It does.
They almost look. It's almost like bullet shaped, like in the way that rat poop is kind of the same diameter the whole way. This is like got a narrow end, I imagine, for easy ejection, and then it's a little more blunt.
What I'm looking at.
Really?
Yeah. Also, lizard poo can kind of look like that, but a lot of times it'll have like a white nubbin on it. A little bit of white in it. But I don't think your lizards are that big. I think it's probably possum.
But there are so many lizards here. I've seen way more lizards than possums. But like, how big would that lizard have to be for?
I know. That's what I'm saying. I think it's probably a possum.
I literally, hand to God, never ever thought about lizard poop in my entire life until right now. Can anyone else say that? Daniel, have you thought about lizard poop?
I'm searching my mind. No.
Dave, do you feel you have ever?
I'm sure I have. I've met enough people that had some type of. In fact, I was going to say I've had lizards as pets. I tried to tame a few lizards that I caught. One time we put a cooler, we filled it full of sand on the bottom and like rocks and little things like, feel at home, little friend. And it was getting kind of thin. So I was definitely like, I feel better if I see some poop to know it's in there feeling normal. And eventually it got so bummed out It was a horny toad. Do you know what those look like? They call it just like I think they call it like a horned toad, but they're cool. They're like, they're like a little battle creature.
They squirt blood out of their
catch
eyes.
those. They're the best. But it got so sad that it started to get like kind of withered, and flies were just landing on it. And the lizard was just like,
No.
I don't care. I'm in a cooler. This sucks.
Oh,
And so we let
Oh,
it go.
man.
And I never saw the poop, but
Okay.
it would have made me feel good had it pooped and like eaten those flies and really, ooh, this cooler is nice.
thrive. Yeah.
Yeah, just thriving in the cooler. Like, oh, I can't get eaten by birds in here. This is great.
Jeff,
But it didn't work
same
that way.
question.
I don't think I've thought about it, but I had a pet newt for a while, and I don't recall whether it pooped or not. It must have,
It must have.
but
Newts are very discreet.
yeah.
My sister had 2 frogs, and then one day she only had, and this story is going to take a dark turn, she only had 1 frog with something big in its belly.
Oh,
These
no.
were like little frogs, right?
They were, I mean, maybe like 1.5 inches, the bigger one. Maybe like 1 inch. They were pretty small. It was still upsetting. Because I don't know
But
if
also
frogs are supposed
discreet.
to turn.
Like a newt. Interesting.
Yeah. I never really thought of newts as discreet, but now that you mentioned it, it does make sense.
If you're out in the wilderness and you stumble on a tiny little outhouse, it's probably a newt's.
I had an aquarium once. I had it for a long time, and I just had fish in it. And then I went to a pet store, and they had these little crabs, and they were cute. They were regular crabs, but for some reason, one claw was huge, and the other one was tiny.
Fiddler crabs.
Are fiddler crabs like that?
I think that's a fiddler crab.
Okay, so it might have been a fiddler crab, but it was a freshwater crab. And I thought, well, this is neat. I'll put a crab in there. That'll be fun. He'll run around on the bottom there. And so I threw him in there. The next morning I woke up and I thought, let me check out this fun little crab. And dark in the room, I turn on the light for the aquarium. Bing, there's Mr. Crab pulling the head off one of my fishes, and just with the one tiny claw, like just pulling its guts out and shoving it into his mouth, just like, what's up, man? It's breakfast. What's up?
Oh, fuck.
Oh my God. Nate. Okay. Daniel, who were you listening to? Oh, you were talking about something Norm Macdonald said. Okay. So remind me what you're saying, that Norm Macdonald said that actually the universe is not a cruel place.
Oh, he had something he said back to Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think, who made the comment about how the universe is cold and indifferent. And then Norm said, well, there's a contradiction in your logic, because we are made of the universe and we are not cold and indifferent. So if we are of the universe, then the universe can't be cold and indifferent.
So I guess I would just...
Unless we are cold and indifferent.
Right. Like we walk by homeless people all the time and things like this as a species.
This is true.
But I think we have the capacity for compassion is what... but here's my addendum. Maybe we are not, although we are. But frogs and fiddler crabs certainly are cold and indifferent.
I mean, nature's a horror show.
It's really awful when you think about it.
Yeah.
The killing never stops.
No.
Never.
And
Nonstop.
that crab was just reacting to its own nature. And it's
He was
for
just
you,
being a crab. That's why I wasn't mad. I was like, this guy's doing what he does.
But if you, the improbability when you saw that initially, maybe you're basing it on size, like it should be okay. These fish are nimble. It would be like if you put a human in a cage with a bunch of horses or something. You thought like, they'll be fine. That's things way smaller, but the person was a psychopath, and you'd come back later and the horses would all be murdered. You would
Just
be
like
like, oh man, that's that nature of that person.
Yeah, I mean, the size of the fish, I think, was a manageable size for the fiddler crab. It wasn't like a giant fish and a little fiddler crab. It was like the equivalent of a minnow and a fiddler crab. But he wasn't biting off more than he could chew, literally. But it was unnerving.
But see, if someone said to me, do you think crabs catch fish and eat them?
Oh, for sure.
I would say, I would have guessed no. I would guess
just-
they just eat plants or something.
these weren't old, tired fish. I just was kind of shocked. Like, how did you get this guy? Like, what was he asleep and fell to the bottom? Like, I was just shocked that he caught this fish somehow.
I mean, he sounds like a varsity athlete. This
Yeah,
guy.
I mean, he was alive for a reason, so he's good at what he's doing.
I mean, no disrespect to Norm, but I do think the universe is a cold and indifferent place.
Did you know he was this sucks because I mean in comedy Norm Macdonald the best, but he was banned from the comedy club in Austin for groping ladies. So a bit cold and indifferent to their feelings.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The universe is mostly empty and dark, and then there's these little points of brightness and light and warmth, etc. I feel like that's kind of humans.
We
And-
contain
Yeah.
multitudes.
yeah, we're vast.
I think that mostly it is cold and indifferent, except it's also capable of us, and so it means it's not totally right.
You know what's not? This is, as the queen of segues, I think this one is either one of my best or it's not one of my best. That's a tautology. It's definitely one or the other. But you know what's not problematic? Apostrophe skincare. Do you have a cabinet full of acne treatments and skincare products, but don't even remember what half of them do? It is hard to navigate skincare products. Hundreds of options, lots of marketing claims, spending hundreds of dollars on the latest miracle product, and you don't even know what it is. I am super happy with Apostrophe. I wanted to try Retin A. I don't really have a ton of acne anymore. I do get the occasional breakout, but I had heard that Retin A was like this miracle product for the stuff that comes with aging, for fine lines and all that kind of stuff. And this woman that I follow on YouTube, who does mature skin tutorials and things like that, has charted her progress with Retin A and how much it's helped her skin. So I really wanted to try it. I don't have a regular dermatologist that I make appointments with and go to. And then I started with Apostrophe, and it's so easy. And through Apostrophe, it's an actual, like, for real dermatologist who puts together your skincare plan. But you sign up, you do a questionnaire where you talk about your skincare goals. You take 3 pictures, 2 profiles, a straight on, and then you send it in. Then you get an email like, "Oh, your dermatologist has put together a treatment plan for you." And so I started with tretinoin, that's the generic Retin A, and then some skin bleach too, because I had a couple dark spots, which are like almost totally gone now. And then I asked if I could go up in concentration. So now I'm on my like 3rd bottle, and I started on a very low concentration. I've gone up in concentration a little bit. I am having a little bit of flaking, which happens with it. This is like the first time I'm actually having some flaking, but it's so easy. I recommend it so highly. We have a special deal for our audience. Save $15 off your first visit with a board certified dermatologist at apostrophe.com/bestfriend when you use our code bestfriend. This code is only available to our listeners. To get started, just go to apostrophe.com/bestfriend and click begin visit, then use our code bestfriend at sign up and you'll get $15 off your dermatology visit. That's apostrophe.com/bestfriend and use that code bestfriend to get your dermatology visit and save $15. And we thank Apostrophe for sponsoring the podcast. Okay, Sarah, you make miniatures, and you made a miniature comedy club and just did a show. Can you tell us how, like, Daniel and I were talking about this, and I was saying that you built little dolls for each of the comedians for the show.
Let me this
Jump
is the
in.
conversation. I was like, I wonder if Sarah has like a green screen and projects the comic, or has a shot of a miniature and does the audio. And Allison said she thinks that she brings the comic to her house and shrinks them really small and puts them in there. And I think
both
that's ridiculous.
wrong.
No, yeah, that's ridiculous.
No,
How do you do it?
So I actually have stand up about this exact question now, because I'm like, now I'm just talking about the project in my stand up, and it's layer upon layer. But I have dolls versions of the comedians that I operate as a puppet inside the tiny comedy club, and they're like, 5-6 inches tall, and then the comedian provides the voice. Right now it's over Zoom.
I think that's what I think I was right, Daniel. And it's important for me to be right.
Looked at
No,
the
she's not
pictures
saying
I
she shrinks them
posted,
down.
it's pretty obvious what I'm doing, but the I can
Dan-
see who follows me on social media and who doesn't. But the dolls are really challenging because, one, I'm not skilled enough to make tiny dolls yet, like realistic looking. Like, I'm not a sculptor. I can't like paint facial features onto something I've sculpted. Like, that's a whole other layer of stuff and talent that I don't have. But so the dolls that are out there, the choices are extremely limited. I mean, it's like horrifying. Like, me and my friend like want to start like a diverse doll line, like, because there's no racial diversity, there's no body diversity, and so I try to make the dolls as close of a representation of the person as possible, given what I have available to me. Sometimes it's really funny and like accurate, and then other times it's like a fucking nightmare. And the comedian, part of the fun of the show has, because we've done it twice now, is the reveal of the doll. When I go, please welcome Patton Oswalt, and I lower the doll in, and everyone's like screaming, laughing because it's so bad. And he just spent the whole set making fun of the doll. The first time we did it, it was really funny. And, but it's this really creative project that has taken off on a life of its own that I did not anticipate. I truly started the project because I was already interested in miniatures, and I had the idea, and I thought, how cute would that be? And then it became this whole thing, a very transformative personal experience and like a artistic endeavor on like a commentary on comedy, and something I can use to do shows in. It's like taking on a life of its own now, and I'm very happy about it because it's just it brings me so much joy, and I'm seeing that it brings other people joy in a way that I haven't been able to do with my work before. So it's really cool.
That's so cool.
Awesome. That's great.
Had you ever done anything like that before?
No, I've done like hints of it. Like, I have a miniature collection, and I did a little web series one time called Sarah's Miniature Shelf, and it became like a haunted miniature shelf. Like, each episode got more crazy. And then about a year ago, I moved, and I finally had room at my new place to take on a project I've been meaning to do for like over a decade, which is to renovate my childhood dollhouse. And I got to do that, and it was very rewarding, and it was my first time, doing anything where I created something miniature. And that's what opened my mind to like, well, what if I tried to make actually something from scratch and start and make everything I can, unless it's out of reach for me to make something. And I made like a couch. I made the green room. I made a little mini fridge that lights up. I did lighting. I made a neon sign. It really so fun. I mean, for the last show, I made a wheelchair for Danielle Perez because she uses a wheelchair. I made a miniature wheelchair, which was wild. And like, I like learned how to weld.
That's so cool. You are very crafty and make all sorts of cool little things. Daniel does the same. He makes miniature stuff and sculpts and does all sorts of artistic stuff. And Dave does woodworking and leather work. Jeff, you work on cars. Like, you guys all work with your hands. My dream would be to never, ever do anything with my hands ever again. Like, the most creative thing I do with my hands is either put on makeup or like use them to type creative things. I do not have this thing that you guys, everyone here on this show has.
Well, it's good. It's good because we need people who don't do it to enjoy it.
And
That's
it takes
true.
up a lot of space.
Yeah.
Well,
it does.
Just
do
typing
the
on a
miniatures
computer
take up a
takes
lot of
no
space? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I talked right over you. Go ahead, Jeff.
Just typing on a computer doesn't take up as much square footage.
No, it doesn't.
No.
I'd say there's
And
something
you're the-
weirdly satisfying about miniatures, and I can't put my finger on it. There used to be a museum of miniatures on Miracle Mile here in LA.
Oh yeah, I never saw that. I always walked by it and wanted to go see.
Yeah, I always wanted to just spend
I
the
never
whole day
saw
there.
it. The Chicago Museum of Art or whatever that museum is,
The
the
Art
famous
Institute.
one. It has a miniature exhibit that is incredible, and it's a room with all these windows. They look like, when you would walk in, you'd think it would be framed photos, but when you walk up to it, it's a room in a frame against the wall, and you look in and it's lit, and like it's mostly like period piece stuff, but I lost my shit. I didn't know it was in there. We walk in and there's a sign. It's like, the miniature room is down the steps. And Scott was like, my husband was like, did you see that sign? And I was like, what? And we walked in and I was like, oh my God. I took a picture. I would probably spent 45 minutes just in that room. And then it was like, we have to go. I can't go see any of the rest of the museum.
How does your husband Scott feel about all the miniatures?
Oh, he loves it because he collects action figures. So it helps alleviate some of the teasing that I give him. And there are some items that he has that are helpful, like he'll have little things that are like the right size.
Yeah.
That go with what I'm doing.
Yeah, what's the scale? Like a human compared? Well, they're all different kinds.
Yeah, there's different scales. Yeah, I work in 1/12 scale, 1-inch scale. So like a 6-inch figure, in the world of action figures, is close. It's a little different, but it's close. And then, but yeah, some people work in like 1/24 or 1/6. A lot of the taller action figures, or Barbie, is 1/6. So that's like, Barbie is like what would be considered a 12-inch doll, even though she's not 12 inches necessarily, but that's a 12-inch world. I don't know. I'm very into fractions now.
So what's the scale of your comedy world?
It's 1/12. So it's easy to remember. 1 inch in my miniature world equals 1 foot in real world. So if I want,
good choice.
It's easy to it's easy to do the math, because if I'm like, okay, the room is 8 by 10 feet, then it's 8 by 10 inches. That's easier to figure out.
If I'm following, Barbie is twice as big as your world?
Barbie is double the size of my world. Yeah.
Oh, this is fun from a fraction perspective. I never had a dollhouse. I think I would have liked to have one, but I never had one growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I learned, dollhouses are a privileged world, have long been, because they are the ones that are really realistic and wooden and all that. They are more expensive. And I grew up, the first half of my childhood, I grew up with that access to that kind of stuff. And so when I was able to renovate this dollhouse, I don't have room for it to keep it. So the intention was always to give it away. And so I was able to give it to a family that would not have been able to afford it otherwise, which was very fulfilling, and just such an honor to
That's so neat.
Give it away. People are like, are you sure? Because like, you really spent a lot of time on that, Sarah. It's like really, really, you could sell that for like thousands of dollars. And I was like, I could. And I ended up doing like a live tour of it to raise money for charity. So I not only used it to raise money, but also I'm amazing is what I'm saying. I am a hero. No,
this is why when Dave met you, the clouds parted, the sky glistened.
Exactly. I just had that
chirping.
effect on people. Yeah.
Did you make the girls compete for it?
Yes, I made them compete. We filmed it. It'll be out on Quibi next year. No.
I think we should say hello and welcome to new patrons. Now, I already gave my hard sell for Patreon at the very beginning, but again, sign up for a year, get 2 months free, 12 months for the price of 10. Oh, what fun. right. I would like to say hello and welcome to Chris Davis. Hello and welcome to Angela Harris. And hello and welcome to Angela. Excuse me. What is happening with my brain and my mouth? To Aaron Hagseth. Hello. Welcome. I hope you guys enjoy all the stuff that you now have access to. And also your names, two of you guys, your names look very familiar, and I'm wondering, are you return patrons? I will take that as well. All right, yeah, patreon.com/Allison Rosen. Check it out, everyone. I think it is time that we should do some Just Me or Everyone.
Sometimes I ponder on something I have thought or done. Is it just me or everyone?
All right. This is a segment where people write in with things they think or do, and they wonder, is it just me or is it everyone? And then we weigh in. And if you would like to submit yours, tweet it to @ARIYNBF. And then that's how you get it in. Oh, you can use the hashtag JMOE. But Jeff, computer producer Jeff, you said that you have one, right?
I do have one. I'm going to call an audible because I don't have a Twitter machine.
Yeah, you can go to the front of the line and just say yours.
Thank you. I feel like I should have saved this for Jenna because I feel like she would have something to say about this. But just me or everyone, chewing gum makes me hungry.
Oh,
So
interesting.
If I'm not particularly hungry or not hungry at all, if I start chewing a piece of gum, I will get real hungry really fast.
That's interesting because I think that sometimes, like if you're trying to not eat or something, a trick that you'll read about is like, oh, just chew a piece of gum, as if it's supposed to like somehow substitute it. But that would make sense that it'll like trigger, like your body thinks it's about to eat.
Yeah.
This is not me, but is it any of you guys?
Nope.
It's not me. And one, it is. You're right in your instinct. It's like, I've read this. It like triggers the physiological response of eating. It gets your stomach acids going. And so that's why you feel hungry. But two, I would never feel hungry in this scenario because I would never put a piece of chewing gum in my mouth. It is forbidden in my house.
Really?
It's forbidden in my car, in my workspace. I hate it.
Do you hate it more than kissing?
Hate it. Oh my God.
Man, wait till
you
you
would
are
never be
57.
allowed.
When you're 57, that gum thing is going to kick in, and you're going to be chewing so much gum.
This
You'll
is-
marry gum, divorce it, second set of gum. It's going to take off and go great. You'll make little miniature gum.
Yeah.
You'll have the dolls chewing that.
Stop
Miniature gum.
talking about it.
Miniature gum, yes. One
Miniature
piece
candy
is
store
6
where they're
pieces.
No.
selling gum. Yeah.
Sarah, I'm not a gum fan
I have
either.
a misophonia with it. I have like the smell of it, all of it. There's like a gum wall somewhere in the Pacific Northwest.
Ugh.
It's violent
What? It's
to me.
chewed
Like
gum and they just stuck it on a wall?
oh, it's all over. It's like the most horrifying thing I've ever
Wow.
seen.
Jeff, have you
People
seen?
will post pictures of it once in a while, and I'll
That's
just be like,
disgusting.
I want to block you just for posting that.
Yes, I think in Paris, there's a bridge where there's a section of it where people put a bunch of locks. It's like that, but gum.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Only in
Pretty
America.
That's right. It's
I feel like back in the 80s, like gum under tables. Every table you would go to
Yeah.
in
No.
a public space had gum under it.
I
was a custodial maintenance engineer for a public school district for a long time. I scraped so much gum.
Ugh.
So much gum, and I hated it.
that's
That being said, I'm not a big gum chewer. I just chew it occasionally, a little minty sugar-free gum for my nerves. I actually don't chew gum.
okay, Mr. Gum.
I have breath mints, for that reasons, but no,
I'm an anxious jaw clencher, so it's sort of a soothing
How do
thing
you
for that.
bring it up to people if they've introduced some gum into your life?
if it's I'm now become I have learned to manage the world in the world of gum chewers. I've learned living it, traveling, I've just learned how to like go into I disassociate. Like I literally just go somewhere else.
You go into your
mentally.
gum fugue state.
I do. I'm like rocking back and forth. Like it's almost over. It's almost over. But if it's someone who I'm like going to spend a lot of time, I don't like in mixed settings, like at work, I've learned over the years, don't tell anyone, don't say anything. Cause then they're like, oh my God, Sarah. Oh no. Oh. Like they swallow it. And I'm just like, no, I don't want you to adjust to me. I will adjust to you. It's okay. But if it is somewhere where it's like a shared office space or my husband, when we first met, I just straight up am like, I know it's annoying, but this is just how it has to be. If you're going to like share space with me and we're going to have an intimate relationship, like that has to be that way. Like in a car, if I'm in a long car trip, I will say something. But if I'm working in like a writer's room and I get there and it's like, you know, somebody's a really loud gum chewer. Like I bought my first pair of years ago. I got these today. I mentioned earlier, but my first pair, which I just replaced today, my first pair of noise canceling headphones. It was the first time that I did same day delivery for Amazon. It was like a new feature, and I was like, I've never wanted something same day so bad. It was a new job where a guy was just like, just the wettest, nastiest gum chewer, popping it. And I was like, I don't have the power in this room, writer's room, to say anything. So I got the headphones to like help drown it out.
What about like if someone's eating corn nuts or sunflower seeds, or is it all general mouth noises, or is it especially gum? There's
some mouth noises that I have like, I'm very sensitive in all ways, smells and sounds, especially. And, my husband we've had a lot of fights about it.
Like, stop eating that sandwich.
I'm like, how does one drink a hamburger? How is it possible for you to chew soup? What are you doing over there? No, but we've learned to like live like to. He now understands that I'm like, there's things that annoy him sound wise, and I'm like, okay, you know how that annoyed that makes you feel? That's how I feel when I hear whatever, and I can't help it. But it's not all foods. It's just some stuff. I've just learned to deal with it for the most part, because the world does not. It's the stupidest thing. People who have misophonia or other types of like sensitivities to stimuli, they understand that like the rage you feel is abnormal. Like it's your heart, it sets off some kind of panic.
Yeah, that's why I chew gum.
Well, we'll never be in the same room when we're both anxious. It'll be a never-ending circle.
It would be a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
I had a moment earlier where this is my second show that I did today. And during the time in between, like after the first one, I went in and I went to the bathroom, and then I came out into the living room, and both kids were yelling and they were watching some kind of children's program on. And it was really, everything just seemed very loud. And I mean, I think that that's like a pretty common thing to be irritated by, but I felt that panic for a second of like, oh my God, I can't hear myself think. I'm losing my mind.
Well, one thing I've noticed with me with it is that by the end of the day, the more tired I am, and it's like a cumulative effect. I can't take any more stimuli. So if I'm tired, the volume has to be even lower.
Yeah.
And I'm like so prickly and irritable, and like it sucks because I have some jokes about it now in my act where I'm just like, there's a term called highly sensitive person. I don't know how real it is. I literally like took a quiz online, like, but it fits with all of this so well that I think I probably, if I went to a doctor and was like, am I this? They'd probably be like, yeah. But I was like, describing it on stage, like, all this stuff makes you seem like, oh, it sounds like I'm a superhero, but in reality, I'm just a huge bitch. I'm just like, turn it down.
All the symptoms you describe, I get that too, but it only happens when I leave the house ever.
Yes.
Right.
That's the only time.
That's because you're a computer.
Sure, you get hot and your fan turns on, but I've been going back and forth about whether to bring this up because I feel like when I talk about COVID and all that stuff, sometimes people are like, I don't want to hear about this anymore, and yet I feel like every show I spend a little bit of time talking about because we're in a pandemic. I'm gonna say this. I tweeted about this. I said that I like to think it was pithier in my tweet, but something like I was looking on Instagram and I noticed like tons of people that I know are going maskless to places like indoors, big crowds, maskless. Is this what people are doing now? What's going on? I'm getting mixed messages because we are almost totally still like on lockdown. I mean, not entirely, but we do have 2 unvaccinated kids, and if a kid tests positive, if a kid is going to school, excuse me, and tests positive, it's like a whole big thing. So I think it's different if you don't have unvaccinated little kids, but at the same time, I don't know. So most people who wrote back are not living as freely as the Instagram stuff. But I don't know, Sarah, what about you? Like, what's your life like now?
Well, I'm trying to be careful because I do live in close proximity to an unvaccinated child in my new living situation. And we're like kind of melded as a pod. And so I don't want to like have to separate, and which we luckily can if we need to. But because I'm doing stand up, where I've really tried to stop doing stand up. There was that brief period where things were open up.
Yes.
Yay!
Yeah.
And
I was
then
doing in-person shows again at that point.
Then I pulled back and I was like, okay, I'll do outdoor shows. But I will do indoor ones if it's proof of vaccination and everyone's wearing a mask backstage and in the audience, then I'm way more likely to do it. And then I will take my mask off for that performance and take that risk. But because of that, I haven't done a lot of the other things that people have done because I'm trying to like just lower the amount of times I'm taking the risk. So I haven't really eaten in restaurants. I've only done that a few times, and I haven't gone to the movies. I haven't been to a concert. I haven't done anything like that. So because I want to save it for stand up and things that, but I have traveled and I wear a mask, and I've been okay so far, knock on wood. But yeah, I mean, like people were talking about the Emmys, and Seth Rogen made that joke of like, this isn't safe. But I actually worked on an Emmys adjacent production, and everyone had to go through the same protocol. And it was the strictest thing I've been a part of. So it was like masks everywhere. Now, those celebrities in the room, they all took their masks off for the ceremony. So I understand what he was saying. But in order to get in there, you had to be vaccinated and you had to have a negative PCR test 24 hours prior. You took so
right.
That was the strictest thing I've been a part of since this all started. And it was like, I felt safe in that situation, even though, sure, there could have been a chance that you were sitting next to someone who was just rolling in it. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, the Tonys, people in the audience were wearing masks. It was interesting that the Emmys didn't have them wear masks. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird because I'll see pictures of these festivals, like festival concerts, where people are just packed in. It is nuts. Or maybe I'm nuts for thinking that's nuts. I don't know anymore. Dave, what's your take?
I think it depends on where you are. So LA County are 8.8 million people, slowly creeping up toward a pretty trustworthy vaccination status. We've gone down in cases where like 1,000 a day now, which isn't great, but out of 8.8 million people that are all kind of living life, that's pretty good. And then, but if you go, we want to go see some friends in Arizona. So I looked up their vaccination rate. It's awful. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be like out in public if we go there. I'm doing a show. I haven't done a single set since the lockdown, and I'm supposed to do a show in Minneapolis, like the first weekend in November. So I feel okay traveling, and I feel okay in the space, like Sarah was saying, like masked, green room, etc. But the idea of going out to do essentially like the first stand-up in nearly 2 years, there's a lot of triggers. I'm sure that seeing people in the crowd, laughing, projectile, just breathing toward you, all these weird like triggers that you don't realize you have. And especially when you have young kids and they're unvaccinated, you just have this different sort of like, hey, stop trying to kill me and or my offspring. So
I left
safe.
a show. I've played it by ear, like, and just followed. I mean, one day to the next, I might feel, a little more brave than others, depending on how much I'm getting paid. But like, I went to a show where I was like not getting paid, and it was like kind of a dump. And I went in and there was no proof of vaccination, and the masks weren't, half the people, most of the people weren't wearing masks in the small performance space. And I was supposed to go on stage like in 5 minutes, and I just said, I'm so sorry, but I can't do this. I've got to go. And they were so nice. They were like, we completely understand. Don't worry. And I was like, I know I'm coming off like a real bitch here, but I'm like, I have a paid gig in 2 weeks, and I can't get COVID and can't cancel that gig. Like,
it's weird to feel like a jerk for doing something that I don't know. I feel like if
you shouldn't
more
have
people
to justify that. I know.
Not at all. Yeah.
You're not the one being a jerk. I went to the Apple store last week in Northridge to get the new Apple phone.
He's one of those.
They had a stand in line, and it was I created space between me and the guys in front of me because they were together, but they were wearing their mask below their nose, like, just cavalier. They were just, it's like we have a mask, but we don't really book it. It's like
the most punk rock move. Just take this, establishment. It's my nose. I'm a fucking punk rocker.
I'm not gonna
deal with these nostrils. I respect no authority at all. Nostrils.
Exactly. It's kind of like wearing a backpack on one shoulder. I'll wear it, but I'm not going to say anything to these guys. No, I'm not going to be like, guys, put your mask on. But I'm just going to create space because, I have 2 kids, and I'm not afraid that they're going to die. But if they get COVID, we don't know the long-term effects of that. Like childhood diabetes has gone up recently. Like we don't know. So whatever. But the Apple employees kept going like, can you guys move closer? Can you move? And one after the other kept coming up like, move closer. And I'm like, I'm not moving closer. They're not putting their mask on. I'm like, fuck off. Like, have you forgotten what's happening right now? Like, why are you pestering me about this?
You shouldn't have to justify why you don't want COVID.
Right. Like, they're the ones not putting their mask on. Why are you coming at me? Like, I started to get more and more, like, ramped up every time one would come to me. And finally, by the last dude, I was like, I'm not moving forward. He was probably like, who's that psycho? But...
Well, they say that if someone's not wearing their mask properly, it's the people behind them that are getting the cloud more than the people, so it's like they've shown fucking footage, like computer generated models of how this all works. And it's just like, somehow, and I don't know everything, I'm not a scientist, whatever, but I somehow, as confusing as it's been, I have had a grasp on the basics.
There's a lot of people who think that, wearing a mask, and wanting to wear a mask is you being afraid for your own health.
I know.
Like, oh, you're so scared. Oh, you're just hiding under the bed or whatever. And it's like, no, you wearing a mask is to protect the other people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, when I'm in line and I'm keeping a distance, it's not because I'm afraid I'm going to get hurt. It's because I want to protect other people in my life.
And it
I just
only
think there's
works
a
if we
ton of
all
people
do
who
it.
Don't get that. You know?
I'm like, how many times do they have to be told? This is what drives me crazy. But I think the protecting others thing, I did a show that most of the audience had masks on, but a few didn't. And I said, you know, for the people not wearing masks, it would be my honor to give you COVID tonight. You know, like I said that to, I was just, because I just wanted them to think, like, I was like, you know, you come to a show, the comedians are the ones that are out and about doing a bunch of stuff inside. And I'm like, and we're up here with our masks off. So I just want them to subtly think about the fact that they're the ones, for my breath is the danger, not, you know, if they're wearing a mask or whatever. But
Did any of them put it on?
No. Because at that point, they're like, put on the spot and, you know, whatever. But it's only happened like once or twice, but
entrenched.
I feel like at this point, you either do or you don't. Like, the people who aren't.
All right. Ray Morgan says, just mirror everyone. While pumping gas, wonder if I'll ever fuck up and try the diesel pump. Well, the diesel pump is like shaped differently, right? I'm always curious about it.
It should be.
I believe it has a larger size nozzle so that you can't put it in an unleaded tank.
Yeah.
Oh, that just makes me feel, I have worried about that as well. You're not the only one.
Not just you then. There we go.
Unless you're filling a duffel bag with gas because you're afraid of the shortage.
Yeah. Tupperware.
Yeah, I feel like a duffel bag. I mean, it would just leak right out.
And it smells funny.
Have you ever worried about driving off with the nozzle in your tank?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've done that.
Oh.
And I was on a really long road trip, and I was just out. I was like kind of just sleepwalking through the whole motion of all of it, and I went in and paid and came back and just got in my vehicle and started to pull away. And this guy came running over right as I heard the nozzle. It didn't break off. You know, they have a thing in place for it to break off. Yeah. It just fell out of the thing. It just laid there on the ground, and it didn't spill any gas or anything. And it was like, for the most part, pretty harmless. But this guy came running over, pounding on my window, just screaming at me. He didn't work there or anything. He was just mad at who I was as a person in that moment, which was understandable. But I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, man. I just spaced it. And he was like, but how could you? I was like, it just happened. It just did. I can't take it back. But why? He just couldn't get over it.
Because that is someone that checks and double checks, and they feel that now their hard work wasn't appreciated.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
obviously, you did it on purpose. Like
they get furious seeing someone driving down the road with the thing open, the little flap open. And here I was 2 steps beyond that. I mean, and it's not like me. I feel like I'm a check the things, but you know, when you're really tired and all that, it's so fucking weird. And then it's like one of those things where if you did do the diesel or something, you do it and you're like, it wasn't that bad. You're so worried like the gas station's gonna blow up, people are gonna come running out.
Do you imagine the whole gas station just like trailing behind you down the highway?
Like,
the thing ripped off, there's gas everywhere, that guy's smoking, everyone run!
Yeah.
And instead it just flops out harmlessly. Nothing
That's
happens.
truly what I've always imagined is the complete destruction.
Yeah. Dave, it's scary to think you were on the road like that. I also, when I look back on the condition that I used to drive in, like late at night, it makes me feel nervous now. It didn't make me feel nervous then.
Yeah, I was always pretty good at pulling over and sleeping. I wouldn't push it to where like I was nodding off but you can get in a real like dreamlike state where to just stay on a road going straight for hours and hours, you don't need a lot.
Yeah.
Your brain needs to kind of recognize like foot, hand, okay, we got everything we need. And anything beyond that, I just wasn't taking in. It is kind of scary to think about like, and I'm sure I was like probably stretching and stuff like, okay, here we go. And hopped in and just zoomed off with the thing still. It's crazy.
That's why I never did cruise control.
Yeah.
At least it was that little bit where you're still engaged in driving.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel like
where you
cruise
just can lift
control.
your foot off the gas.
Yeah,
That's-
cruise control is just one step closer to just checking out.
Yeah.
You know what else it is?
Yeah.
A miracle. It's just the best. I don't know why you guys are afraid of it. It's so wonderful.
I love it because I get such bad like hip pain and stuff and ankle pain that if I can't change positions,
Oh yeah.
because I've done some really long haul drives, and if I am stuck in the same position for too long, it's unbearable, the pain. So I love cruise control. My strategies for staying awake when I'm driving is I will listen to a book, but it's not just listening to the book. I will try to say the words of the book as I'm listening to it. I'll be like,
Try it with me. As they crested
As they
the early
crashed their
dawn, and
summit,
the earth looked out
it
upon them
upon
like
itself.
a giant globe,
Like
and they were
oak.
seeing through their own
Their
eyes their
eyes.
futures out before
their futures
them.
are out there.
And
Yeah.
when they turned, that's
Well,
really challenging.
when you've listened to a book long enough, now you understand the voice, and so you can really try, especially if it's like an accent, like a British one is really good, like, or if I'm listening to NPR or something, and it's like the BBC British guy, I'll just like try to say the news with him.
That's such a good idea.
It really does keep me awake. Yeah.
I heard that truckers will hold, I don't know if this is an old tale or something, but really late at night, exhausted, grab $100 bill and hold it out the window.
Oh, that's smart.
That-
That's
Sarah,
you know what I like? I like drugs.
Oh yeah,
You're Mr.
like-
5-hour energy over here.
I used
always
to
keep a 5-hour
chug
energy.
Mountain Dew and No-Dose. Remember that was supposed to be
Oh.
just like pure caffeine, and I would still
yeah.
fall asleep. It did nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Well-
yeah, it doesn't. Oh, I mean, caffeine doesn't. I mean, I meant. I think psychologically, I'm like, I need a soda and that'll wake me up, you know. But yeah, one time I had too long of a story, but one time I was really pushing the limits, and I had maybe 15 minutes left of the drive, and I went like this, like, you know, when your head goes like
Oh, yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And I was going like 80 miles an hour. And after that, I changed a lot of rules about my travel. It scared me.
man.
So that'll wake you right up.
Yeah, I did that. I was busy
It
all day
scared
loading
me
stuff.
so much.
Yeah, you never forget that. I had a little puppy with me on the bench seat of my pickup truck,
You
and
had
I
your
spent
what?
all day loading up my puppy. I had my dog's
You said
brand.
your
He's like a
Nuppy.
loaf
I
of
was
bread.
thinking like it was like a blanket or a stuffed animal.
I had my Nuppy, Daniel. You know my Nuppy. I had my Nuppy next to me.
Wait, is
and
this your
I've been,
current
like-
dog?
No, this is my previous dog. And I had been loading the pickup truck all day and hustling. And so it's the first time I was off my feet, and you don't realize that your body's like, psychologically it's going, all right, we need to get where we're going. And also kind of going, we can finally rest. And I don't remember how it happened. I just remember what Sarah just talked about. Is like, you wake up and see your lap. And I was like, and I see my Nuppy. And then I'm like, and I looked up and I was exiting to a viewing area, like a rest stop. So anyone behind me would have just thought like, oh, he's just pulling off. But really, I was
my
going dead
Oh,
at
you-
the pole where the sign for the
No!
rest stop was. Yeah. And I went and swerved back on.
Jesus.
It was horrifying. And I was probably 1 second of still being asleep from that being the end
Oh
of
my
it.
God.
Yeah.
I know. Crazy.
Thankfully, I didn't go that far. Woo! That is scary.
Yeah. So that I always pull over now. If I feel like any kind
Yeah.
of nodding off, I just, whew.
So they have standing desks. They should have like standing.
Yeah.
You could drive and stand.
like a chariot. Get me
Yeah, like a chariot.
Alexa, turn my car into a chariot. Turning car into a
Yeah,
chariot.
garbage truck drivers, they do that. They get
Yeah.
a standing cab. They should have that for cars.
Huh.
That's
and
$1
I
million
think
idea.
I think so.
Some-
Let's do it, Jeff.
All right, I'm in.
Like a fire truck where they can ride on the back stand. You should have that on a vehicle where you can get on the bumper, hold a different steering wheel, and then when you went past people, they'd be like,
Yes.
"Oh, she's tired." You're like, yeah, trying to stay awake.
It's changing the fire
Or
truck.
where like you turn your car into a pedicab for when you just need to get out, stretch your legs, and be engaged. and some listeners have heard this story before. I was driving back from Santa Barbara where I had seen Lenny Kravitz and Blind Melon. I was in college. And
Now, wait, what decade was this in?
this was
Hard
in
to
the
place
90s.
Yeah.
It was in the 90s, yeah. So anyway, driving, and I sometimes get visions right before I fall asleep. And I saw confetti, and then I saw the Michelin Man. And then my friend who was in the car with me went, or like, Jesus Christ, did you just fall asleep? Because I heard the like of my wheel hitting the speed bumps or whatever those little bumps
Rumble
are.
strip.
Yeah. So I actually did fall asleep.
Fuck.
So
The Michelin Man wasn't there.
no, he wasn't. I'm the most rebellious of all of us. Because not only did I see rock and roll, then I fell asleep. But it was okay. But it was scary.
Yeah.
So we're all
Terrifying.
lucky. Young
Yeah.
people listening to this, don't be like
Don't do
us.
it.
No, pull over. Everything you think is important is less important than you dying in a car accident. So
Yeah.
you could miss shows. You could miss being at. I used to get. Do you ever get this? Like drive long road trip and then like you're a little late for dinner. Like, yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I was alive when I got here.
But
Yeah.
Sarah, tell me if you're like me, I would not feel safe. And I'm never in a situation where this comes up. But as a woman driving alone, I would not feel safe pulling over to sleep in my car.
Oh yeah, that's a problem. There's a lot to that too of like,
Yeah.
you know, if it's at night, it's a totally different
Yeah.
story. And I just try to avoid being in a situation where I'm having to drive a lot at night, but
Right.
I'm being
It's
on
pretty
the road
terrifying as a
Yeah.
dude too. I'll just say it's not
Yeah,
a
I
fun
mean-
feeling.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah, like there's been a couple times in my travels where I have thought, where I have new rules in place. Like my travel rules have changed because of a night where I felt unsafe. And whether I was or not, it was enough to ruin the night. And I didn't sleep a wink because, you know, like I no longer will stay in a hotel by myself or in general, because I don't need that shit anymore, but I won't stay in a hotel that has the door opening up onto the parking lot.
Right.
Even first floor is a little dicey for me because of the windows. Because I just get nervous and I can't sleep because of it. I have night terrors and I think somebody's coming in the room and it just like fucks up my life. But yeah, those kinds of rules, and no more red eyes where then I have to drive after, because that's when I nodded off, was after that. And yeah, like snow.
No chewing gum.
Yeah. No chewing gum ever, because the risk there is that I kill someone.
Oh my God, when you're at a motel, if you're on the first floor and then the creepy boogeyman person walks past the vending machine to get to your room and they stop and get gum, there's your nightmare.
I mean, why put that in my head?
Yeah, that's not a
as
cool
a
computer
as
thing
a
to
cautionary tale. As a cautionary
Guys,
tale.
this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us on this show. If you like what you're hearing, please make sure you're subscribed to the show or following or whatever it's called in your app of choice. Leave us a nice comment on Apple Podcasts. We read them on the show. 5 stars for our favorite number. Tell a friend. Follow me on social media at Allison Rosen on Twitter and Instagram. Sign up for my Patreon. Listen to this week's Monday show with Nicole Thurman, and that is on YouTube also, youtube.com/Allison Rosen. Dave, where can we find you? What should we look for?
Big Nothingness is on YouTube. It's also streaming at everywhere. So there's a smart link through most of the places where you can find me that'll access you to any one of those things, or you can just go to YouTube and search it. But davidhuntsberger.com is the best place to find it. And then it'll be on Vimeo on Friday, and which would be the 30th or the 1st? Oh, October 1st,
yeah.
Friday? Yeah. And then I think Amazon at some point after that. But I'll have more info on that when it comes. And then Acme Comedy Club in Minneapolis it's their 30th anniversary, November 5th, 6th, and 7th. And I will be there. I'm not sure which night yet, but or maybe all 3. I don't know. But I'll be there for that. And that's it. So Big Nothingness. Thanks to everyone who has watched it. I appreciate it. It took forever to make. And I hope people enjoy it. It's I'm glad it's done. The song fiasco, all of it. So, and thanks for letting me chat about it on here.
It's time to stop where the cowboys shop. The D-Bar M, the brand name in Western wear.
It's Western Stores. I messed it up. It's brand name Western Stores. But yes, D-Bar M. Shout out to Reno, Nevada, Jack Bassett, and everybody at the D-Bar M.
The
can't
Hollywood
wait
of Nevada.
to watch
Yeah.
it. Sarah, what
I hope
about you?
do.
Please come to a show at the HaHa Hole, my miniature comedy club. The next one is on October 21st. You can go to nowherecomedyclub.com. Yeah, nowherecomedyclub.com or my social media, Sara Schaefer 1, to get a link to buy tickets. And check out my podcast, The Schaefer Shakedown.
And also, I just want to give a shout out to your book, Grand. I was just telling
Oh,
Daniel that it is
thanks.
like, and I think I went on about this last time you were on, but it's like one of the most well done memoirs I feel like I've ever read, and
Oh,
certainly that I've ever
thank you
read
so much.
recently. Like the structure is just
Thank
just-
you.
so well done. So and such a, not only just from a structural perspective, but just the book is so good. Everyone go get Grand.
Thank you.
Okay. Daniel, what about you?
Oh, you just follow me at Daniel Quantz, Twitter and Instagram.
D-Quants on the Snappy.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, check out the garage. Oh, yeah, it's a big... Get out of here, you motherfucker. Brings it all back.
Yeah.
And Jeff, what about you?
Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Colonel Jeff Fox. And that's all.
All right, you guys, thank you so much. Listeners, thank you for listening. You matter. I love you. Goodbye.
Hey, do you know about the Allison Rosen show?